Hello, everyone. Today we have two incredible women with us. Their names are Tamina. She's coming from New York City, originally from Pakistan, and Emily, who is in Belfast, Maine. They both have been and still are participants in the Claimed program, and they're here today with us to share their story. And before this recording, we actually started a recording and we had some technical issues. So I'm going to bring everybody back to speed so that Tamina and Emily don't have to repeat themselves 100 times. Before we stopped recording because of tech issues, Tamina was sharing with us that, her situation was that she was going from a situationship to a situationship, attracting emotionally unavailable men, and where she was stuck with men, where men were basically, it was the same pattern of go to a party, see a hot guy, connect with a hot guy, and then somehow get involved with hot guy. That would lead to nowhere. That would lead to no emotional intimacy, not being a girlfriend, and just being stuck in this pattern of, as we call it, situationship. And you also mentioned to Mina that you were like, well, there must be something within me because I'm the common denominator, and you're really trying to figure it out. You also said that your relationships with women were not as great, and that you have been doing work in the past, like personal development growth, that was obviously pulling you or pushing you forward, but there's something missing. And I asked you what has been missing to me, and you said, you've done therapy, you've done Landmark, you've done business accountability coaching, and it was all about controlling your thoughts and thus controlling your reality and making this happen and all of that. And I asked you what was missing. And you said that for you, really what was missing is that deep touch with your feminine self, with your femininity, with who you are as a woman, and a sense of community. Like you mentioned that here in Claimed, we have an incredible community of women where you come in, come out, and you're always welcome. There's a lot of your words, guidance and patience, accountability, and also a lot of gentleness. And that's what's missing from a lot of personal growth. And I then commented that, yeah, I agree, because a lot of the personal growth work today is it feels very masculine. It's like, let's think about this, let's create a to-do list, what should I say, what should I do, instead of letting women be and giving them the tools and the guidance to breathe and to move and to explore and rediscover themselves, right? There's a whole module in the Claim program called Rediscovering Your Womanhood or Femininity. So that feminine expression, you said, right, which is coming out day by day within your journey. So did I miss anything, Tamina, before we move on to Emily?
That was great. You got it.
Cool. All right. Awesome. So, Emily, we're going to move on to you. And I think with you, you said that your situation before joining Claim was this one guy. And this is so common. You have no idea how many women jump on a discovery call or tell me, like, I joined Claim because of this one guy, right? There's always this one guy. So tell us about the one guy and where have you been before you joined Claimed?
Sure. Yes. Well, it really wasn't, the one guy was really like the last straw. I had already been listening to your content, like on your podcast, and reading some of your articles, and listening to some other like relationship advice, and starting to apply some of that and just see if that would improve my experience dating. Because I was on dating apps at the time and had just gotten out of a relationship and was like ready to approach dating. I was like ready to date. And then I ended up seeing this one guy the most and having some other like dates that were very confusing for me. But this was like all after a summer of just feeling excited to be like trying new things, some of the things I was like reading and learning about. But yes, there was this one kind of like breakdown point. I remember just bawling to one of my best friends. It just feels like I can never like do anything right. It's like no matter what I do, I feel so lost. Either I have to like abandon myself or it just like hurt my head, like figuring out how to handle the situation. He shows up in some ways, but he doesn't in other ways. I am so confused. Like, why does this feel so shitty? I just felt utterly, utterly lost. And it also, I think, was how I felt in my life in general, always using my head to like figure out what to do. And it just felt terrible, terrible, terrible. I was like, I need help. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. So was this the moment, Emily, where you were like, I need help? And so you've been listening to my podcast and you're like, all right, I guess Anurova knows something. So tell me about that. Like, how'd you sign up on the discovery call? And yeah.
I think, yeah, I had already been listening to your content, and I think probably at that point I had already watched
Masterclass.
Yeah, I had already watched like the hour long webinar. So I think it was kind of like there for me. And yeah, then I was like, okay, I need to sign up for a discovery call and get help with someone. And it was also after like watching all of the testimonials from other women. You know, I'm glad to be here on the other side. It's pretty cool to be here on the other side of it now, because that's really legit. Like, look at all these women. You can just tell like that, wow, people really go through transformation here. They seem happy and healthy. So
yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're on the other side too. It's pretty surreal, isn't it? Like sometimes I ask women, like, would you like to come on the podcast? They're like, oh my God, you know, like, oh, I've been listening to all these women and now I'm here. Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable, right? Like I really deeply feel when women join the program and there's hope there and you kind of like sitting there, fingers crossed that can happen for me. You know what I mean? And it's unbelievable. And you're like, can it happen for me? Well, yeah, it happens with other women. Actually, I invite both of you to speak to that, because we get so many of these, we call them objections, right? Where women are like, well, great. It happened for, like, I'm sure women will be listening to your stories, be like, well, great. It happened for Tamina. It happened for Emily, but it's probably not going to happen for me. Because obviously there's doubts, because there's investment involved. There's time involved. There's something new, like you're scared. Like there's all these things are coming up for you. So I want both of you to speak to that moment where did you have any doubts, or was it like, sure, whatever, because every woman is different. But Emily, I feel like for you, it was like, oh man, all these women are legit. Did you have any doubts, or like, will it happen for me? Because I know, like from my experience, there have been 550 plus women who've been through this experience. Every journey is totally different. Like I know that if a woman does the work and commits, transformation will happen. 100%, and dare I say, for every woman, although this is a huge promise and I like to under promise, over deliver. But I truly, truly believe that. And it doesn't, you know, for some women it happens fast and they commit and they just go, right? For some women, they need a little bit more guidance. They need a little bit more commitment. They need to show up on calls and ask the uncomfortable questions, be in the hot seats. You know, some women don't even attend the coaching calls and things happen for them. So, of course, there is this like 1% chance that it might not work. But like, to me, that's not even the reality. Like in my reality, I will work. Like, obviously, if you show up and ask me questions, I will work with you until my deathbed to help you see what I see, to help you see what's possible, to help you commit, to help you do the work, right? Because I feel like that's the hardest thing, to actually do the work. So, yeah, what would you say to that? So let's start with Emily and then Tamina, if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, I think I didn't really have any theories in terms of like, will this work for finding my man? Because I honestly signed up for the program to help myself. I just like was feeling so low and so confused. I was honestly, what attracted me was seeing the women talk about how it just benefited their lives as individuals, not even necessarily because they found the most amazing partner. I mean, that would have just been like the cherry on top. I was working with like bigger issues of not even trusting myself to like make decisions or like know how to approach situations. I also didn't have a fear around like, will I be able to transform myself because I needed it. This is going to happen because I need it.
So there's that conviction right from the beginning. Yeah, cool. I'm actually the same. I think, you know, we attract a lot of women who are like me because I'm like, well, if I put in the work, there's trust within me. But some women, for some reason, unexplainable maybe, you know, there's something in them, well, what if it doesn't work for me? You know, Tamina, what was your experience with this? Did you have any doubts or kind of fears?
I would say my feeling is very similar to Emily's. There's like tons of coaching programs out there. So when I find something that resonates with me, I'm like, this is it, right? Like I'm a firm believer of like when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And it was pretty quick for me. I don't think I even watched your masterclass before I think I signed up for the discovery call and then I watched the masterclass because I was like, this is what I need. I'm going to do it. And similar to Emily, I didn't come into it being like, oh, I'm going to find this man, or that wasn't my overarching goal. I want to learn about myself. I want to learn about how I'm showing up in the world. The whole idea of the flow and the surrender and the being and not the doing. I was like, what is this magic this woman is talking about? I like have no idea how it works. Being in the flow and the like leaning back and the relaxing in your body and listening to your body. That was just like the magic to me. That was like the sparkles. That's what I want. That's how I want to feel. And my fear really came, I think I'm still uncovering beliefs and like traumas and layers and just things that I've taken on and internalized. And I think it wasn't a doubt and like, am I ever going to find the right man? It was more just like, oh, God, give me the strength to do the work and go deep and actually like, confront the shadow. And I mean, having the support of the group again, and Anna, like your leadership and your coaching style, like is something that really, really continues to resonate with me. And I think that's what gave me the strength to continue to go deeper to this day. So I think my moment of like hesitation came when I was just like really starting to uncover the limiting beliefs and the depths of the trauma and all of that was where I just like felt a little bit unsure of myself.
Got it. Thanks for sharing. So let's continue with you, Tamina. I'm actually curious, how would you describe to other women, because you said, the community and then my leadership and coaching style continues to resonate with, like, how would you describe that? And I guess what really resonates and works for you in that?
I think something that you mentioned, radical self-responsibility. I think to me that resonates the most. And I think for me, it's so liberating. Radical self-responsibility can be confronting, but it's also very liberating to be like, oh no, it's how I'm showing up in the world that's attracting this or that to me, or these events or experiences or people. And to me, I think that is really liberating, and I get excited to get into that work. And again, I would say, I kind of see you as like a no bullshit coach also, and like, but again, while being very gentle and patient. So I think I really, really appreciate like, and I feel that with a lot of women in the community as well. There's like a very real, it's like real, and will hold you accountable, but with a lot of gentleness and compassion and grace. And the liberty to show up as the woman that you want to be. And I had a lot of beliefs around like, I think a lot of women and claimed have said like, oh, all the other women have femininity figured out. It's just me. I just don't have that like femininity gene or whatever. And I think just showing up in my femininity in the way that feels good in my body has truly been so liberating and continues to be, because that's something I'm still learning and exploring.
I love that, the femininity gene, right? Like, I already imagine the title for this episode being like, do you have the femininity gene? Question mark, And I've seen so many women go through this. And obviously I have gone through this myself so many times. And my belief is that every single woman has that. And that every single human has that, because femininity, yes, of course, it's intrinsic to us as women because biologically we're women. But we talk about energies, right? Like the feminine energy, the masculine, that's also present in men. And so all humans can access that. Obviously, we as women have, I think, just a much more direct connection to that we can access and feel, and it lands in our bodies. But every woman and every human has it. It's just a matter of like taking the time to actually ask the right questions and sit with that and feel and get into your body and all of that. So let's continue with you, Tamina. I'm curious. Well, for both of you, the question that I want to ask is, what were the 2 to 3 biggest aha moments for you in the program? So, Tamina, you mentioned that there was a little bit of resistance or, like, I guess, fear around limiting beliefs and releasing that. Maybe you want to talk about that. But in general, if you look at your whole journey in the program, especially because we know your stories and where you started. So I'm really curious if you could talk to that. So 2 to 3 biggest aha moments. And Tamina, let's start with you.
I think I'll give an example for listeners. Like, I've said quite a few times of like, I felt like I wasn't feminine enough or feminine in the right ways. I'm 33 years old now. And I think around when I was like 27, I was just like, oh my God, where is this like biological clock that all the women talk about that I'm just like not feeling the pressure for, right? Like didn't really have a desire to like get pregnant and birth, or like this idea of marriage in a traditional sense never really resonated with me. And I come from a culture where getting married and having babies is the thing that women do. And I felt like there was something fundamentally wrong with me as a woman, that I didn't want those things in the traditional sense. And spent probably like several years feeling a lot of shame and anxiety and panic around that. Like I don't have that desire. Like, just what's wrong with me? And I think, the beautiful thing about being Claimed and being in this community of women is I really got to be feminine in my own way, that there's nothing less feminine about me just because I don't desire to be pregnant and birth children. So I think that was huge, like a weight lifted off of my shoulders. And I was like, oh, I can just be this woman in this way that wants to live this life and not judge others for what they want and not feel judged for what I want or don't want. So I think that was huge. And this I continue to work on in all this, the situationships I was in. And I was like, oh, all these men are emotionally unavailable. I was emotionally unavailable. I was closed off in ways that I wasn't willing to look at or didn't have the tools to look at. And I think that was another big moment where I was like, oh, wow, it's also me. Like, it's not just the men that are emotionally unavailable. Right. Yeah. So
Surprise.
like it's me that's the jumping off point that's emotionally unavailable. Therefore, all these men in my life. I would say those are my two biggest ones. I'm sure I have more, but I think those like pretty much encapsulate my biggest takeaways to date in what I've been saying about like the freedom to express femininity in a way that feels good to me in my body, and then also that idea of like radical self-responsibility and how is it that I'm showing up, attracting these patterns into my life.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of that whole femininity, be feminine, whatever, today is very prescriptive and dogmatic. It's like, oh yeah, you got to wear dresses and you got to wear pink and you got to want babies and you got to birth babies and stuff like that. Yeah, along the lines, I've also played with these ideas and stuff. But now, after having so much experience and so many women and going through my own journeys and transformations, really femininity is what you want it to be, and then how you want to feel as a woman. Because, a lot of women are like, I've gotten a lot of messages from women who are like, oh my God, if I go through this transformation, will I like lose my job, stop being assertive, stop being ambitious, like everything's going to crumble down. And I'm like, no, it's just giving you the tools to really express and discover who you are behind all of those layers. And I guess the really big, strong muscles that we have, as women had to develop to survive, to succeed, or whatever, in that masculine sense and energy. But there's quite a few women in our group who do not want children, and that's okay. Of course, there is some connection to the feminine energy in birth and children, whatever, but it doesn't have to be. We as women, we can access all of these through our bodies and through the different tools of creativity and life creation, all of that. So thanks for sharing that. And of course, the mirror principle. It's really interesting when we just started to ask this question, well, how am I participating in this, and what is my role that I have played in this dynamic? Then a lot of things are coming to the surface. So thanks for sharing, Tamina. What about you, Emily? What were your 2 to 3 biggest aha moments? And by the way, Tamina, I've really enjoyed watching you grow and develop and blossom into the woman that you are today. Same thing for Emily. Everyone who comes to the podcast, like I see your journey and I see your story, and it's so inspiring, and it's actually such a privilege for me to watch this. And it's not me, it's not the program, it's actually the women. It's you who are actually doing the work, because without you doing your feminine flow every day and like showing up on the calls and in the group, like this wouldn't be a thing. So so thank you for showing up and doing the work. So what about you, Emily? What were your 2, 3 biggest aha moments?
Yeah. How I went into the program, which is that like it's really not about the men. Really. It's really not. Like, if we don't love our lives, if we don't love ourselves, if we don't expect good things for ourselves, if we don't respect ourselves, if we don't, if we're not in touch with what we want, if we're not cutting out time for pleasure every day, how can we possibly expect to find those things in a relationship? So that was huge. That was huge. And that's where I started. I was like, I don't need to worry about the guys right now. I just need to like worry about me loving my life. That was the first one. And then I think the second piece was the wild woman and really my relationship to pleasure. Am I really like creating space for pleasure in my life? Like, am I really working through these old stories that are just like creating blockages within me and old patterns? Am I really creating pleasure so that like eventually someone else can give me pleasure? Like, do I even, like, is my body even receptive to that, like in general?
So very specifically, sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
can you give us some examples? Because, when we talk about pleasure and wild woman can feel like very kind of here in the head and whatever. And so what is something very specific that, let's say, you realized you started doing, and this whole idea of like giving myself pleasure and putting myself first? I love that you said, if we don't love our lives and ourselves, like that's my worldview, right? Like, first become that woman who you want, this ideal man. So, okay, think about the ideal man. And what does this ideal man want in a woman? And the question is not really how can you become that, but how can you become your own unique, authentic expression of that? Because trying to become someone that men will love, which I think that a lot of this work I see some other people do is like, well, become that, but also make sure that that is actually who you truly are. And actually, if you just keep being you, the most authentic, raw, vulnerable expression of your feminine self and who you are, while breaking down all those barriers of intimacy and, emotional availability, all of that stuff, then the men will just be like bees to honey, because men are inherently attracted to the feminine, masculine men, obviously. So have you got some examples, very practical things?
Yeah, I mean, probably one of the most cut and dry things is that literally during my flow practice, like I will verbalize to myself, like, I welcome pleasure into my body. I literally had to like rewire parts of like myself that, like even interpreting like back pain, for example, like rewiring that, not have that be like the thing that like my brain and my experience like only registers that. So like actually just like intentionally creating space for that. I think just being a lot more honest with myself about what actually brings me pleasure, which means a lot of times saying no to things, saying no to more things so that I can say yes to other things, which for me, it's like taking a bath or like spending time outside or just like literally sitting down with a cup of tea. And then sometimes saying no to bigger things, like when I get invited into like projects or like to go do things with friends, it's like really being honest with myself. And I think probably being okay with like letting other people down, because if I'm not prioritizing my own pleasure, what's even the point of like saying yes to these things? So yeah. I mean, sex too, like I've had to work through some stuff around intimacy and sex, and really, really watch what my brain is doing during moments of intimacy. Watch what my heart and my brain and my body are doing. And that's like deep work of rewiring, coming from experiences of either trauma or just like patterns that don't really serve me. But like really making sure that like I am staying as present as possible, like when I'm in a safe situation with something that like, really like should be bringing me pleasure, just making sure that like I'm really taking the time to register that in my body. Like, this is a good thing that's happening right now. Like, so presentness, maybe that would just be like being present. Yeah.
Presentness and pleasure. I'm so happy you leaned into that. Yeah. So my last question to both of you is, where are you at now? So obviously you talked a little bit about where you have been, what have been your biggest aha moments, and then where are you at now? So Emily, for you, this one guy, and you're like, what was the last straw? And you cried with your girlfriend, and you're like, shit, this is the breakdown moment where I can never do anything right, and confused and utterly lost. And like you described, you use very poignant words, my heart feeling terrible. So where are you at now? Like, how has your reality shifted and changed? And of course, I'm going to ask both of you about your reality with men and how has it changed after going through the program?
Right. Everything has changed. Everything has changed for myself. I would say every day I love my life a little more, and that feels amazing. I feel so much more clear about like who I am and what I want and how I want my life to feel and the stories that I tell myself in order to get myself there. And then it's specifically in terms of men. After working on my own life, now I've worked on my relationship with men in general, trusting them, expecting the best from them, understanding like why they are the way that they are and what they give and what they contribute, and just really having a respect for men in general, and like going out into the world with faith in them and an openness and just like playfulness and flirtiness that like I like to have in my life in general. Everyone, men and women, but it's not like around men I'm like all like, oh God, like something bad is gonna happen, or like can't trust you, or like fuck you, or anything. So openness. And then through that, actually just like 2 weeks ago, I said yes to an amazing guy who I've been seeing for a few months now, to being his girlfriend. So
What
like,
the heck? It's like women always drop these bombs, during my interviews with them on the podcast. I'm like, what? Because I'm always like, share in this Facebook group, share on the calls. Who's got an I Gold Claim story? Emily, this story has to be shared in the group, please.
it will be.
Okay, great. And when you
Yeah.
come to the calls, please share with women. But
I will.
wow, congratulations. I mean, this
Thank
is
you.
pretty amazing. And like I tell everyone, this is not the goal, right? I mean,
Right.
obviously, this is like a huge moment of celebration. And Emily, again, you've done so much work on yourself. I've seen you join all the coaching calls, asking all the questions, like all of that, and sharing in the group, like just witnessing your journey has been so amazing. And no wonder that you've attracted a beautiful man into your life, having that mindset of I trust men. I expect the best of them and respect and have faith and play and flirt. And when you have that mindset and you hold that and you embody that, men can't help themselves but rise to the occasion. I've seen it so many times, time and time again. If you are expecting men to disappoint you, to let you down, to whatever, that's what you're going to be seeing and attracting, because you're going to be obviously always looking for evidence. So amazing news, Emily. And why I say this is not the goal is because the goal is always you and your wild woman, and the work always continues. Like it continues for me, even though I'm married with children, and I personally know and feel like this is the secret, so to say, or the key to not only, obviously, this is where the work actually begins. You've attracted a man, and then from then on, it's going deeper and continue to do the work so that that union and that polarity can be maintained and sustained. Amazing, Emily. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Tamina, where are you at now? Have you broken the pattern of situationships, and what is your current dynamic with men?
Yeah, I have totally broken the pattern of situationships. I'm having the most fun dating. I just, similar to Emily, just like enjoying being flirty and fun and feeling safe around men, feeling safe in my body, feeling safe enough to let my guard down. And I'm really, I think, and every date I go on, I'm learning a little bit more about myself and what I like and what I don't like, and what kind of man I would want to be in a relationship with. So on that front, I'm just having a lot of fun. I've kind of let go of this like heaviness and this expectation of like there's some milestone that I have to get to by a certain time, and just seeing what shows up and continuing to learn about myself through that. And I think that's really the most exciting part of dating for me right now, is like how much deeper can I get into learning about myself and what I want, and like seeing how I feel, and like, okay, what are still my triggers? Like, what are ways I'm still withholding in terms of emotional availability, or even in other ways. So I'm really, really enjoying that process. I'm staying curious and open. And, I think one of the things that I've also learned from this program is giving men chances. I was not someone who gave men chances at all in the past. But now I really am. And again, even that is like, honestly, at the deepest level, it just feels like it's for me. I give men chances not to do them a favor, but just it's for me to explore. Like, where am I being too rigid? Where can I give lead back a little bit more, or be a little bit more flexible, or be in my feminine and let go of expectations. So that's where I am on that front. But again, similar to Emily, like I feel like I'm falling madly in love with my life every day. Just getting to know myself and get like owning what I desire, and like owning that I have desires around certain things, even just the way I want to live my life, the kind of apartment I want to live in, the kind of work I want to do. Yeah, I mean, I think I'll just share a little bit of a snippet. I wasn't expecting to do this through this program, but I was running my business full time when I joined the program, and I was working so hard and I was hustling so hard. And then I had a moment, I was like, why am I working so hard? Why? Like, this is great. I love doing this. And this is like, my life's journey. I have a very mission oriented business, and I'm going to continue doing this. But I was in this intense time crunch and in this hustle mode where I was like, I have to do this and I have to do this for myself because no one else is going to do it for me. And I was like, chill. Like, I'm going to, like, to me, it was like, I'm going to go back into the safety of a job and be really clear on the kind of work that I want to do and get a paycheck. And just, that felt so good to own. I was so against that because I felt like I had to be in this hustle and grind mode. But it's just helped me to just relax in a lot of areas of my life. I've just leaned back hard, and it's so good. And it's just, I think there's been an impact in all areas of my life. And with men, I feel really good about the woman I'm showing up as in these interactions, and the kind of fun that I get to have, and how I get to learn about myself and other people, and men in the process. And big time feeling safe in my body around men. Like, when before in the past, when men would flirt with me here and there, I would just be like, what do you want? Like, back off. I don't know. This is creepy. But now I'm just like, hey, like, I can flirt and then I can walk away and you can buy me a drink and there's no expectations. And, so it's been fun. I'm enjoying it.
Oh my gosh, I love everything you're saying. And I think, and obviously, Tamina, I'm so proud of you because I do remember our conversations and coaching calls and your shares, and and it's not all rainbows and unicorns, right? For both of you, I think for all the women who do the work, it's not like la la la, amazing, right? It's a journey, and it's a journey of transformation, and it requires you to get out of your comfort zone. And so challenges are expected, and hurts are also expected. But one thing that stood out to me from everything you're saying specifically is that when dating has become a playground of exploration and of seeing where else and why is this triggering me. So most women who join the program and who are still in that going through the program, or I'd say most women, it's like a man does something, let's say, that you don't like or whatever, either he like send you a text message on a dating app or he didn't organize it. So what women do, and I've been there myself, is like first is react and say, what the hell? Like, this is not okay. And then push, defend, stuff like that, and then make a story in your head. And it's like, no. And then go talk to all the girlfriends who are like hating on men. And we have a pity party. And it's like the world is, ending and stuff. As we go through this process, first of all, I love that it has become fun for you. And then also, I always say, dating is where the rubber meets the road. So you're doing all of this work, and then you're going out there to see, well, let me see what else can I attract? What am I going to attract now, right? And if you still keep attracting men who like not organizing your dates properly, not showing up in the way that you want to, pattern. Hello, pattern. Let me go back. What is that about, right? Like, where else can I lean back? And can I expand? And can I take self-radical responsibility? Where else can I set up my boundaries with men and communicate? Oh, haven't communicated with him, right? What I want. Haven't said no. Haven't said, hey, you're a great guy, but this doesn't work for me, right? So it's a constant process of iteration, like quality assurance, until you get to the point where you like what you're attracting. And then you just keep doing that. So it's kind of like this dance of going back and forth and getting really curious about I think you, Tamina, you have such a healthy mindset that is so rare around dating, and obviously like all the women who go through this process. And I always say, if dating is exhausting, not fun, and you're drained by it, like don't date. Like do yourself and all the men a favor. Like no, like there needs to be some work done so you get excited about men, of getting like what you said, right? Like, oh yeah, hello, leaning in and he's buying you a drink. Absolutely no fucking expectations. You're taking that drink, you're flirting, and if you're not vibing or whatever, you give men chances, but you're great getting to know you. Goodbye. So yeah, I think what you just said, that attitude is so mature, so healthy, and so empowered. Like you sound like you're a woman in your power when dating. And I would obviously like why I'm doing this work is I would love to see all women in the world date from that place, because it's such a beautiful and empowering place to date, rather than sitting there in your pity party and asking yourself why he didn't call, right? And well, if you're asking yourself this question now, you gotta, keep pointing the fingers back at you and saying, yeah, why he didn't call, right? Let me dig and excavate. So let's finish now, ladies. I'm so grateful that you came to share your story. Everyone else listening to this podcast interview, and if you're inspired and curious to know more, highly recommend, of course, you first watch my signature masterclass. That's at claim.com/training. It's less than an hour training that's going to walk you through all the steps that we're working through in the program that need to be done in order for you to achieve what Tamina and Emily and where they are now. And of course, if you're ready and if you watch my masterclass, listen to my podcast 1,000 times, and maybe right now you're with one guy who broke your heart and you're like Emily, bawling your eyes out, and you're like, what do I do? I don't understand. And you're ready to take the next step, then apply and sign up for a free discovery call at claim.com/apply. And then you'll get on a call, and then perhaps you'll join and get started and join Tamina and Emily in our amazing community and program. All right, Tamina, Emily, thank you so much. I'm going to say goodbye here. I really appreciate your time, your energy, and we'll see each other on the inside.
Thanks so much, Anna.
Thank you.